Today, I'm interviewing Jonathan Griffiths. Jonathan has been on a carnivore diet for over 3 years now. Today, we're going to check in with him and see how the carnivore diet has been for him over the last 3+ years. Just before we get into it, guys, could you do me a huge favor and click like and subscribe? This really helps me to grow the channel, and I am grateful for your support. Let's meet Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here, Dave. It's nice to connect with you through Professor Bart K on that live stream a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So you've been on the carnivore diet now for some time, right?
Yeah, so roughly, I'd say about 3 years and 4 months, something like that. I
Wow.
did have a period of about 3 to 4 months in that time where I went off the rails, was binge eating, and I started listening more closely to Professor Bart K's partner, Pim Johnson. And she specializes in carb addiction, binge eating, that kind of thing. So that's been a tremendous help to me and helped me get back on track, I think. But yeah,
Mm.
carnivore over 3 years, so it's doing good.
And how did you find the carnivore diet?
So initially, I started a carnivore diet of some sort, which was basically canned tuna and the odd fried egg. This was back in 2012, I believe, when I was competing in a natural bodybuilding show. So I thought, well, if I don't put any energy substrate into my body, so pretty much next to no fat, next to no carbohydrates, I'm probably going to be a bit leaner. There's nothing that can turn into fat. It's very hard to get fat from eating protein.
So this was
What
like
happened?
canned tuna in
Yeah,
spring water.
it was tuna and spring water. Yeah, there was no olive oil.
Wow.
There's no
Wow.
It was lean, Dave. There was no fat. There's like
And
50 grams of fat a day, maybe on a good day.
wow. And that was
Yeah. So
sustainable?
um, for me, it was not not very well though. I felt horrendous. Honestly, I don't recommend anyone does that. It worked as in it got me to quite a lean state, but what I noticed was like things like my testosterone level seemed to have dropped. I didn't feel very well. I had like brain fog, nausea. I had like all the symptoms which match mercury toxicity. Okay? Like I really felt like manic depressive, just absolute trash. So it's not something that I would feel is sustainable, but I managed to do it somehow for about 5 months straight. That was on top of about an hour and a half cardio per day and about an hour of weight training a day. I'm a bit masochistic, so probably not many people would actually be able to try and do that, and I would not recommend it by any means. But yeah, that was where I initially came up with the idea of getting rid of all the vegetables and plants and sugar. I kind of fell off because I wanted to gain some muscle, become more competitive as a bodybuilder. It's very hard to do if you're just eating tuna and egg. So I put all the carbs back in. All that binge eating kind of started off. Um, yeah, then I noticed I started to feel like crap. Time went on and I could not sustain that way of eating. So I had to find a way of being as healthy as possible and maintaining my muscle mass as well as much as possible and keep as lean as possible. Came across the carnivore diet just by chance, really. I think I came across one of the podcasts, maybe, or someone talking about something. I know um, Scott Maslinski from the Carnivore cast. He has a big influence. Listen to all his stuff. Sean Baker, of course. Jordan Peterson. I've kind of come from it from an angle of severe mental health difficulties, depression, anxiety. I was diagnosed with autism around the age of around 21. It's quite a late diagnosis, but I did find that the carnivore diet itself was very beneficial for what I was trying to achieve in terms of feeling better, having less symptoms overall, working better with my peers like in university, and just I'd say just achieving more in life. It's definitely made a big difference, and it seems to be that the closer I am to a 100% carnivore diet, the better I feel.
Regarding the so you went on your tuna and egg diet to kind of lean down. Um and then you wanted to add that muscle back on, so that's what kind of got you to the carnivore diet. So how is the carnivore diet as far as putting on muscle? Because whenever I have spoken to people in bodybuilders in the gym and stuff before, they're always like, "Oh no, you need to eat your carbs. You need lots of carbs, before the workout, that kind of thing." So, how have you? Because prior to the tuna thing, you were eating carbs before, right? So, what's the
Yeah.
difference?
The difference is I find it's very easy to gain information and get fat if you add in carbs to your diet. Um, I think that you're more healthy if you follow the carnivore diet for a number of reasons. You sleep better, you usually pick up some of like the ancestral health stuff, blue blocking, reducing EMF exposure, all that sort of thing. That seems to come together to have an impact on your recovery from the gym. Um, at the same time, people will look at carbs as being the savior because you can eat lots of them, you can get your calories up, but calorie intake doesn't necessarily or at all really reflect on the muscle mass that person has. Um, we can always eat more, but are we giving our body the stimulus to grow muscle? Are we giving the essential nutrients needed to build muscle? And that is protein and fat is in the two essential nutrients we need. You can argue as well, water is one of them, but I guess without saying, I think everyone drinks water nowadays. So
What about like, aren't there phases that you would go through if you're building muscle? Isn't there like sorry if I say these words wrong, but isn't there like a cutting phase or a bulking phase or something like that?
yeah, that's what conventional wisdom would suggest. Yeah. So I think that anytime we really commit to something like that, and I'm talking about periods of like 3 to 6 months onwards,
Hmm.
what often happens is you need more and more food to build more and more muscle. And what happens is it has a compounding effect on your digestive system. So what happens then you start to feel crap, really bad. Your stomach will be distended, digestion won't be as good, your sleep will be impacted. So I kind of feel like the best approach to building muscle in terms of a bodybuilding methodology is to have periods of gaining a bit and losing a bit. Um, how you'd outline which one of those you need to be focusing on at a given time is very individual. Um, it's not a case of saying, okay, Dave, you're going to start weight training and 6 months down the line, you're going to be cutting and a year later, you're going to be bulking or whatever it is. I think that following any kind of number, scheme, weekly guideline is daft. That's the point where people start having blood pressure issues because they're chasing the scale weight, they're chasing the numbers. They're trying to follow a plan that might be setting their health status backwards. So I'm not the biggest fan of bulking cutting per se, but I would say there are points in time where someone will, when they compete, for example, look to reduce their food intake. So usually it comes in the standpoint of reducing fats and carbohydrates if a person's eating them. Um, the problem with that is when people look at their diet, the foods with carbohydrates in them will have a very large volume to them. Food with a lot of fat in them, so for example, what you and I eat, Dave, will be very
Hmm.
small. The volume of our food is quite small. There's no extra water in our food, no fiber, things like that. So people will always, nearly always, reduce the fat intake to the point that they're not providing themselves with enough cholesterol through the animal fats. They're not giving the body the raw materials to build testosterone and other hormones. They start to feel crap. Their blood glucose goes all over the shop, and things happen downstream, which is very deleterious to health outcomes. Fatigue sets in, and people will just look at carbs as a way to get energy because that's what we're told through our culture is, you need some quick energy. You have a Mars bar or you have a bag of Skittles or something.
Hmm.
I can say for myself, I've never had a Mars bar or a bag of Skittles and felt more energetic afterwards, ever. I've always felt worse. So,
Yeah. I've always felt worse as well, and also felt like, I could go another Mars bar.
yeah.
This is interesting. So, speaking about muscle, my experience on carnivore thus far is that the muscle seems to build more easily. And I guess I'm starting from zero. So it's got, it's going to be easier anyway. But over the years, I've tried to go to the gym and tried to build a bit of muscle, and just no matter what I do, I never seem to gain any momentum. But since I've been on the carnivore diet, I finally find that I'm getting a bit of momentum with the muscle growth. Do you yourself feel that your muscle has grown more since you've been on carnivore?
It's very tricky to prove causality with that. The reason being, I've had my spine fused about 5 months ago. So
Hmm.
that's cut out a chunk of my training. In the last year or two, maybe I'd say last 4 years in total, I've had severe back and hip pain. So it means my training performance has been, in some cases, lesser. However, in that time, sort of thing, I've been more health conscious. And I feel like the carnivore diet does reduce inflammation, at least chronic excess inflammation that we would otherwise have through like a diet with lots of carbohydrates in. Getting back to your point, I think that ultimately your recovery would be improved. I mean, I don't personally meet people that follow the carnivore diet that say they cannot sleep on the carnivore diet. You get some people that say, "Oh, I feel better if I eat a bit more before bed, or don't eat 3, 4 hours before bed." It seems to be quite subjective in that kind of sense. But I don't meet people that say they're not recovering as well. Um, that's provided they're following the carnivore diet properly, so they're not just eating chicken breast all day and turkey. They're eating like the fattier meats, the beef, the ribeye, the eggs, some dairy, maybe butter. Um, yeah, so I think the carnivore diet is very effective in that sense, with the caveat that you follow it properly. You know,
Interesting. So you mentioned your back. How's that going now?
I'd say it's very much healed. I had the surgical procedure in, I think it's December the 12th. Time of recording now, it's the 30th of April. It's about 4.5 months away, something like that. And I found that my initial recovery was very good. I'd say double the speed that my counterparts that would be having their surgeries was. My experience was better. I was able to do things in the gym a lot quicker than most people. Saying that, my because of my muscle mass, they had to use a different procedure to cut through my lower back. So they typically someone would have one cut down the middle of the spine, because they wouldn't be able to access the pedicles on either side, the vertebrae, the disc base, because of the muscle mass in the way. They had to cut through my muscle mass. So that's through all the intricate muscles of my lower back. So they said at the time it wouldn't be any different to my recovery, but I know it has. I experienced some minor atrophy in that area. So the muscle was weaker, smaller. But at the same time, it's coming back now as well. I'm getting more mobile. I'm able to do things a lot more. But yeah, I mean, I spoke to Sean Baker about this, and a few other people in our space. And obviously, people say, "Oh, I'm going to have the surgery." It comes across like, "Oh, you're taking the easy option." Um, for me, it wasn't the easy option. It was the last chance resort. Is the last bullet I could bite, sort of thing. Without that surgery, I probably would have a severely, extremely terrible mind frame looking forward. I'd be reluctant to do anything. I'd be in crippling pain, so I'd be standing up. I'd walk the dog. I'd have to lie down for the next day. It is a tough way to live. I'd say now I have a fresh leash on life. I'm able to do things, day-to-day stuff, not like I couldn't do deadlifts in the gym or anything like that. But day-to-day stuff is a lot more accessible. It's a lot easier. Um, Saying that, I've now got some hip pain. So I'm a bit in a different boat now. But I'm sure that will heal over time. I've been assured by my surgeon that was a result of basically some muscle damage that happened during the time of the surgery. And it will go away eventually. I've just got to be very patient. And it is I must admit, if anyone's watching this and they're going through the same thing I am or looking towards it, it is probably the second most painful surgery you can have in your lifetime. It is extremely difficult to get through. The recovery is long, and it will be a massive test on your mindset. So I've always emphasized the importance of mindset looking at anything, whether any dietary change, any physical development change, anything you're looking to challenge your mind and body at in life, find some way to approach it with the best skill set you can possibly do it. So for about 3 months prior to my surgery, I went through a series of cognitive behavioral therapy sessions with a counselor. I was basically trying to make my mind bulletproof because I knew I could be lying in bed for months on end. Anything could happen in that surgery. I could be really suffering. What they say, like mind over matter. So I had to be very prepared in that sense. So I do emphasize that a lot to people, and that's that sort of skill set I learned is so valuable. I mean, I've looked at it now from like experience of being a relatively new sort of YouTuber. There's lots of difficulties that people like Dave, myself will know, like in creating videos, lots of things can go wrong. You don't hit the record button, for example. That happens sometimes. But yeah, looking forward, it's now given me
You
a new
just made
approach
me
to
look
different
up and
things.
check.
Just to
You
check.
just
Yeah, I did as well, actually, as I said that. Yeah. You get what I mean, though. It's important to look at things from the angle that, this is going to be challenging, but you're going to come out on top, you know?
Mhm. What what was the necessity to have the surgery? What was the cause? Was it from weightlifting, or it was something that was just genetic?
I think there's an element of genetic disposition there. Reason being is my nan has had both her hips surgically repaired, changed, whatever, replaced. Sorry, my mum just had her hip replaced about 2 months ago. My brother has bad knees and bad hips. I have bad hips. Um, so that obviously translates to what happens in the spine as well.
Mm.
But the actual impact that happened, which caused my, for a point of reference, it's spondylitic spondylolisthesis, an L5 and S1 vertebrae, foraminal narrowing at the L5 level. And I also had something else which doesn't sound very nice, but basically your back really hurts. It hurts all the time.
Mm.
Basically, what happened was I had a rugby collision around about the age of 12 or 13. We're playing internationally against the Italian school teams. For some reason, they pitched us up against adults in sixth form. So like college athletes, a lot bigger than me at the time, a lot bigger than anyone else on the team at the time. I had a very bad tackle, which was outside of the time of play. I don't think I was even carrying the ball. And I had a very nasty tackle. That basically crunched me up real bad. I was then offered some ibuprofen, which obviously at that age, I didn't know anything about painkillers. I just thought, don't take it. It sounds bad. So I didn't take it. I spent the next 2 weeks hunched over forward about 30 degrees. No one really knew what was wrong. So we went to the GP, as you do. And basically my GP at the time, he ran his finger down my spine, got my telephone top up, said, "Oh, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you." I said, "No, something's not right. This is horrendous." Bear in mind, at that time, I did not have the diagnosis of autism. So my ability to express myself is very weak, or has been very weak in the past. So it's something I'm constantly working on. So I wasn't in tears, but I just sucked it up and got on with it.
Mm.
My mum then took me there again. Same thing. "Oh, nothing's wrong with you. Just take some paracetamol. You'll be fine." So past that point, I went back every year or so, to see if anything changed. Nothing. I then found myself going through hoops to get MRIs and X-rays. For some reason, they're X-raying the wrong part of my back, or they're X-raying the hips. Even I was saying I've got clicking in my back and it's painful. So basically, lots of, in my opinion, clinical negligence and lots of missed opportunities, which would have, I think, definitely changed my life outcomes. But saying that, you live and learn. You can gain a lot from your experience. I think as things happen, you have to move on for these things. You can't just sit back and land your laurels and just blame everyone and be just be useless. You got to get on with things. So that's kind of where I stand now. That's what I'm trying to do. So I focus my YouTube channel as a body composition expert in the carnivore space. I work with people with injuries, and I've managed to, touch wood, not have an injury, or at least a major injury in training in the gym ever since. So It's working out
Nice.
pretty well.
And how often are you in the gym during the week?
I'm currently training 3 to 4 times per week.
Mm.
I'm very concerned and focused on training when my body allows me to. So if I'm feeling very tired, my mind's not right, I'll take the day off.
Mm.
If it's the next day, I'll take the day off. If it's the next day, I'll take the day off. So I'm listening to my body very carefully. Especially important when you're overcoming surgery, you want to give your body the raw materials it needs to build and develop and repair itself. You don't want to be overtraining per se. But for me, my sort of general ballpark amount is about 4 times per week. Might be an hour, maybe. Um, I practice high intensity methodologies, 2 to 3 minute break between sets, sometimes a bit less, sometimes a bit more. I don't time these things. It's a very intuitive approach to training, but I meticulously track my workouts, standardize my form, train safely, effectively, look at my repetitions, look at my weights that I'm using. Sometimes find new ways to do things which might cause less joint pain, things like that. But yeah, that's kind of what my training is like right now, generally speaking.
Mm. Okay. Um, and you mentioned your channel and how you're consulting with people who want to, change their body composition and get more in shape. Um, how is that going? Like, do you have people coming to you? Are they moving on to a carnivore diet as well, or basically you're just working with them on the weight side of things?
I've had a very interesting experience of that. So I find people that are trying to come to the carnivore diet will fall off most of the time.
Mm.
I think there's, in the most polite, respectful way, there's deep rooted issues people have where they're addicted to carbs, like I mentioned at the start. They're addicted to all these foods.
Mm.
It's very hard to get someone to transition if they haven't done it already. Um, Most of the clients I work with, they all seem pretty happy to me. Um, they they focus on like having minor changes to their diet and training. That's what I do. So I come in as a coach to evaluate their performance in the gym. I send me a
Mm.
video, analyze it, think carefully about what they're doing. I'll look at their diet based on their subjective and objective measures. I'd identify what isn't working. In a lot of cases, it's not the point that you need to, like I said earlier, you don't need to bulk up or cut hard. It's usually just a case of tweaking. So what I might do is I might work with someone over a period of 2 to 3 months, sometimes longer if they need it, and then I'll just adjust the macros up or down a bit. They'll check in with me, and it's nice to have that accountability for them. I think so. They'll get a lot of help, a lot of support. As much as they ask me questions, as much as I'll answer them. So
Mm.
I'm very keen on lots of back and forth feedback. That's why they're approaching me as a coach. They want to understand what's going on with the body. In my experience, probably close to 15 years now of bodybuilding, I have a good idea of what does and doesn't work from speaking to different people. I've got different ideas that may or may not be applicable to someone. And some of the things are worth trialing out for a week or two, but then you can tell it doesn't work for that person. You have to change it. So it's a case of being adaptable. And I have had a great amount of pleasure from working with different people. Honestly, the people in the carnival space are, I don't know why, but they all seem to be great people. I very rarely meet anyone that's difficult or
Mm.
not pleasant. Everyone wants to help each other out because a lot of us come to this diet because we're in a place like myself, and I know people that have suffered way more than I have, and I think, wow, what have you gone through to get here? That amazes me. And basically, they're suffering with severe autoimmunity. They can barely move in a lot of cases. Rheumatoid arthritis, things like that come to play a lot. So, yeah, I've had a great experience so far getting to know people, and it's nice to know more people are coming over. I'm getting messages
Mm.
most days from new subscribers, new viewers, new followers, or whatever you want to call them, ask me different questions about things, and I'm able to put them in the right path. It's people like myself, you, Dave, and Professor Bart K. We sort of aim to tell people the truth and kind of understand what the science is and how it might apply to people. It's important to be precise because when you're in a position of influence, you can help or harm people.
Mm.
I do my best to be as factual as I can and help people as much as I can.
Mm.
So that's basically it in terms of coaching.
Yeah. Okay. And Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what I've found about the carnivore community. Of course, I mean, I'm not in the position where I'm taking on clients or anything like that, but just the people I've met, like yourself, like Professor K, like Sean Baker, like all just the people that are watching and commenting on videos and stuff. It's just, yeah, I haven't experienced a community before where, there are, everyone's nice. It's a really it's a really nice feeling to be part of it. Yeah. So what are your plans with the channel? What are you thinking? Is it the channel's basically to support your consulting business?
That's one of my main goals. Yeah.
Hmm.
My goal for the end of this year is to have 5,000 subscribers on my 3,700 strong subscribership channel. Um, I appreciate that whenever you're new to something and you start something up, it takes a lot of time to pick up. Um, I come from a background where I've got a bachelor's degree in human nutrition. With that degree, there's very little you can do. You cannot go to a hospital and get a job as a nutritionist. You have to be a dietitian, for example. Um, you cannot get a job in a gym as a nutritionist. You need a personal training qualification. So I found myself, as a result of like years of working for different people, trying to find like ways into use my nutrition degree, I found it near impossible. So I've had to start my own venture. And I much enjoy it. You get to basically my mantra is aligning physique goals with positive health outcomes.
Mm.
That's what I tried to propose to people. I started my channel um, originally actually through Harry Sapanis. He said, "Oh, look at Jonathan's channel." He had me on a live video Q&A thing one day. I was like, "Harry, I don't have anything on there. I'm not actually a YouTuber." But he said, start it up, and I featured on Bart K's channel, and yeah, I mean, I did sort of think to myself, I'll start the channel up 2 years ago, but I was not in the right headspace to do that. I really wasn't up for it. So
Mm.
now I'm kind of different position. If you go back to if you, Dave, or anyone watching this goes back to my first video, it is atrocious. I'm reading off a script and it's so cringeworthy, but I'm keeping it there as a reminder. I've come a long way since then.
Mm.
Um, I've had, as I mentioned earlier, the autism, things like that. I've had a lot of trouble speaking in general. I did have speech and language therapy. I have had issues with speaking. So me doing this kind of thing is challenging, but it's a nice challenge because you can see how far you come over that time. So I'm
Mm.
speaking to people like yourself that can speak very clearly, very well. Bart K is a massive influence to me. Harry Sapanis as well. Heaps of people I've spoken to, and I think these people aren't making excuses. They're out there doing it. They're putting in the work. So I do appreciate it, and everyone in the community that's helped me along the way.
Yeah, I've got a couple of channels and yeah, when I cringe when I go back and look at the first few videos from those channels. It's just one of those things that, you know, it's that little bit of time invested every day is just it's like bodybuilding, it's that compounding effect, and it just gets better and better and yeah.
It's amazing
Um
stuff. Yeah, your channel is good. I like your content. You come up with very good analogies at times and good concepts which people don't think about.
Yeah, and that's just a result of the way I tend to think about things. Whenever someone's explaining something that I've just got no idea about, I'm trying to put it into some kind of, how can I put this into an everyday situation? You said you mentioned just then that you've been doing the bodybuilding for about 15 years. So how old were you when you started out? Sorry, maybe you said before.
I started around about 13, 14 years old. I'm 28 at the end of June, so I'm currently 27. So I'm still quite a young man, but I've been doing it most of my life now. So yeah,
Mm. Wow. And what was it that kind of what was the thing that prompted you to get started with it?
that's a very good question. Yeah, so my brother got me in the gym because I was at the time basically playing RuneScape until 2 a.m. in the morning. I had no real goals in life, no real focus. I wasn't doing anything much use. I mean, as a kid, there's not much to do. You go to school, you come home. What do? Watch films. eat biscuits and I don't know, drink Coca-Cola or whatever. Um, my brother got me to go to the gym. He said, "All right, you're going to do some half an hour on a treadmill today and a bit of biceps and some abs and some pull-ups. Very basic stuff. Nothing too complex or challenging." So I got involved with him in that. Then I noticed I developed very fast. I've got pictures. If you look back, I can send them at some point, perhaps. Me when I was about 6 weeks into training, and I had abs, like a good six pack, and I'm starting from a point where I was a bit chubby. Things happened very fast, and I noticed when I was training and sort of developed my body over time. I came across people that are in my gym that were competing, and what it was I was thinking they've been training about a decade, and I'm about a year in. Why don't I do what they're doing? Because I'm like catching up with them very fast, and eventually I did catch up with them. I'd compete. Then I thought I'm quite enjoying this now. I'm not winning every show or anything, but I'm enjoying it. I'm getting better. And yeah, is it sort of time went on, you sort of have that, like you mentioned earlier, like you have that compounding effect of when you're building something. Time goes by and you add about half an inch to your arms, and that turns into an inch after a year or so, so on and so forth, and you can sculpt your body. I think for me, the most like obvious thing to me that I enjoy about bodybuilding is that it's a challenge and it is a journey, and it's all you.
Mm.
You can't force yourself to eat the good food sort of thing. You can't force someone else can't force you to train hard. It's all on you. There's no magical formula to do it. It's probably the greatest science experiment someone could actually perform on themselves, I think. Um, and I've learned a lot along the way, met lots of people, been to different exhibitions and all these sort of things. And it's nice to come across people that are like-minded, because with different industries, some are quite secluded, that some are, there's not always going to be an exhibition or a fair, but you have that sort of one thing to look forward to each year. So that kind of kept me tethered along. You have the shows each year or have them often every few months, and you can look to compete in those maybe. Yeah, it's a bit like the carnivore diet sort of community. It's been similar experience overall. But I'm at the point now where I'm really trying to see how far I can push my body with the safe limits, if you know what I mean. So see
Mm.
what you can do with what you have without hurting yourself, without sort of taking the mick. Kind of at the point now where I want to maximize what I can do whilst minimizing the damage. Bodybuilding in the way that I do it is safer than what most people do. I can say that blankly. However, saying that, being, I don't know, 18, 20 stone, whatever I weigh sometimes is not a health conscious approach. Bodybuilding itself can be healthy, but when you get to a certain size, it is not healthy. Your heart has to work harder over that time. So you are effectively shortening your lifespan. So I do accept that when people ask me, like, "Oh, you're going to kill yourself," or but I might enjoy this process and value the extra few years of building my body and learning along
Mm.
the way than having an extra 5 years sat in a care home. It's that
Mm.
age old sort of live longer or live harder kind of thing, isn't it? Like I think there's a balance there, and anyone can sort of live a long time if they just stay indoors all day and don't do anything, and But how much you've done with that time, it's like you don't take it to the grave if you're loaded and got loads of money. I think there's something to be said for doing the most you can while you can. You know,
Yeah. Living more in the moment, and yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, so regarding and how the carnivore diet works into that, like what's a day of eating like for you now? And does some of that eating have to coincide with certain times related to the workout itself?
That's a very good question. Yeah. So for myself, if I'm trying to gain weight, I'll often have bigger meals. It makes sense. Mass in, mass out. Um, I'm currently having 4 meals per day. I don't particularly track the meal timings. However, my schedule is in such a way that I tend to eat around about the same sort of time. The benefit of the carnivore diet over the conventional bodybuilding diet is that you can go for longer without food. You're more fat adapted. You don't get that sort of rush. Oh, I need to get my chicken and rice now, or I'm going to cut someone's head off, sort of thing.
Mm.
It's not like that anymore. But essentially, I probably have it goes up and down. So this isn't like a what I always have kind of thing. But I might say breakfast might be 3 eggs, an ounce of cheese. Might make these like protein pancake things, which is like butter, eggs, and whey protein. That's quite a palatable thing, quite a small, compact meal you can have. I have that usually about an hour and a half before the gym, sometimes an hour. Um, After the gym, I might give it an hour or so, sometimes 2 hours. Then I have a raw milk protein shake. I've got a recipe for it on my YouTube channel. It's like the most anabolic protein shake you haven't tried yet, or something like that. It's worth a watch. But it's essentially raw milk, taurine, creatine, whey protein, eggs. You can add or take in different ingredients, of course, but that'd be my meal too. And I usually put some ice in it, make like a milkshake. Um, that goes down quite nicely, so I like that. It's a pleasure for me without eating like a chocolate bar, like a Snickers bar.
Mm.
Um, Now the next two meals are usually either fatty fish or it might be beef or chicken thighs or whatever. So I have a very mixed carnivore diet in that sense. What we know about people that have a diet of just beef, for example, generally speaking, it's very hard to eat enough food on that kind of diet. Um, the more you restrict your diet, the harder it is to overeat. Your body has a signal it hits very quickly. You could effectively get bored of eating, but as my goal of being a bodybuilder to build mass, I don't want to be in a state where I'm keeping the same food intake over time. Like it's like imagine like a mountain, you get more snowfall on it, then more snowfalls down, then more snowfall. It's like building your body like it is a mountain sort of thing.
Mm.
I don't think you can do that very effectively on just one food alone. Some people can do it. Like Sean Baker just eats beef mostly. I know Dr. Anthony Chaffee does as well. But I'm looking to exceed the boundaries. I'm looking to like push my body as hard as I can, and I'm going to do that much better if I have more food choices to select food from. So for me,
Mm.
it's a mixed carnivore diet. I allow dairy, allow fatty fish, allow butter, eggs. I don't eat organs anymore. I just don't really like them. I've got off them. So, but as time goes on, it'll change. So
Yeah. What organs were you eating before? Like liver?
I was eating liver. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
it wasn't too bad, but nowadays I can't stomach it. I can't even think of smelling it. It's not nice for me now.
Yeah. I've only had liver when I lived in the UK, and it was back 20 odd years ago. It was really popular in restaurants, but I never got to really smell it or taste it because it was always covered in sauce and onions and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's really just like more like a stew.
Yeah, I know what
Um,
you mean.
yeah. So you're eating about 4 times a day, and you're more than 3 years into this. Are you still like looking forward to the meal when you're about to have it?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
I
yeah. I
mean,
think
and
so.
you are varying it a lot, but you're not,
Hmm.
but you still look forward to it, even though it's relatively restricted because it's carnivore.
Yeah, I still look forward to it, and I mean, there are different recipes you can make. Like you can make carnivore ice cream. You can make carnivore pancakes. Carnivore protein butter bites, which I make. So I find ways of putting loads of fat with something else and getting it down me. I come from a background, I'd say, like the way my family has been, like quite a low fat diet kind of family. So me getting fat in has been too beefy other means. Just my appetite for that sort of thing is not that high sometimes. So I had to sort of incorporate into different foods, like scrambled eggs with like a couple of tablespoons of butter, that sort of thing. So
Mm.
that works quite well. Um, yeah, a very mixed carnivore diet, and it definitely works for me. I do anticipate meals. I do enjoy them. I don't think the goal of a carnivore diet is to never think about food.
Mm.
Otherwise it doesn't really match what we do ancestrally. We'd otherwise never eat. We'd be breatharians, what we Dave say.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Um, so you talked about some other things that the carnivore diet has helped with. um, one of the ones you mentioned was autism. Like, what are some of the you said something about working better with people, but what are some of the changes that have happened over time that you think are probably related to the carnivore diet?
I think the main thing is, well, in terms of what's done it, I think is the blood glucose drops and spikes, emitting the oxalates, the lectins, the gluten. Um, they're things which are linked to autism in some ways, like the symptomology of it. So obviously that's had an effect. I found that I'm able to communicate with people better. It's less stressful and tiring to mask my normal, my typical personality, which is something people have to do. Once you spent 20 plus years of your life living and communicating in a certain way,
Hmm.
if you want to fit into society, there is an element of masking you have to do, um, just to fit in. The same way if you had a business meeting and you didn't know anyone in the room, your personality will change immediately because you don't know anyone in the room. You're not comfortable. It's the same thing, but it's just to a different degree, I think. But I find I'm just more expressive. I'm much more focused. I don't have as much like depressive thoughts, which is very common amongst people with autism. I don't live in total, I don't live with total thoughts of impending doom and dread. Like similar sort of experience to Jordan Peterson. I know he had the same sort of feeling. I don't really live that way anymore. I mean, I don't have great days all the time, but my quality of life, my sense of well-being is a lot higher, a lot better.
Mm. Oh, that's really it's really good to hear. Like and when you say it's kind of linked to stuff like the glucose spikes and the oxalates and all that kind of thing, it's really easy to see how those particular kinds of things that we're consuming are doing us so much damage because when you eliminate them, so many things in your body just get so much better. It's like tipping sand in your
Yeah.
car engine and then suddenly stopping tipping sand in your car engine. It's going to start and replacing it with oil. It's going to suddenly start running a lot better, you know?
Another good analogy. Brilliant.
Yeah. Um, when someone's looking for some consulting regarding they want to change up their body, they want to get some some more muscle going, how can they reach out to you, Jonathan?
Yeah, so I have the best bet is probably to go through my website. There's a contact form there. Um,
Mhm.
that's probably the best bet. So that's compositionconsultant.com, all one word. Quite a mouthful, but I never thought of that when I made up the name. um, yeah, the Instagram as well is quite good. Um, provided you've not got some weird, fishy, fake profile, you can get through to me quite well there. Otherwise, my spam filter will block you. Um, and that's composition_consultant. Other means of where finding me. I'm in a few different Facebook groups. You might see me post from time to time, but I do post on my own Facebook group, which is a private paid membership page thing, more frequently. I just found that I was spending a lot of time, screen time on Facebook or different groups helping people out, but I wasn't monetizing it. So now I'm at that point where, if you want to ask me questions, please consult with me. Go through the affordable consultation payment price link. I've got good availability most of the time. Bear in mind, I'm based in England and the UK, so time zones don't always match, but there's always a way to communicate with me. I try to be as contactable and helpful as I possibly can.
Hmm. And yeah, of course they can check out your YouTube, and I'll link to all of those and in the show notes. Um, Jonathan, is there anything else you wanted to share before we finish up?
I would like to discuss with you what
Hmm.
you found, generally speaking, with the carnivore diet and body composition yourself. Like, I know you kind of alluded to building a bit of muscle or it being a bit
Hmm.
easier somehow. I mean, are you training at all now, or is that just the
Yeah.
diet itself as leaned you out and built your muscles a little bit?
So the diet has definitely leaned me out, but I'm trying to do some training. I'm going about 3 times a week, and I'm pretty time poor. So when I go, all I'm doing is dumbbell presses. Um, and I've I've kind of reached my weight limit at the moment. I'm kind of stuck on 22 kilos, but um, I was going up 2 kilos in 2 kilo increments like every 2 times I went because going, oh, that's all right. I can get through 10 reps, 3 sets kind of thing, you know? So I'm going to go up another 2 kilos. But yeah, I've hit the wall with the 22. Um, and what I noticed is um, in the middle of my chest, like the kind of the valley in the middle of my chest is much deeper than it ever was before.
All
That's
right.
I was just kind of like I've got a hairy chest, and I was just trying to get the hair out of the way one day, and I went, that feels different. And yeah, like and it is the like the kind of the chest area is visibly it is bigger, but the thing that made me notice it was the valley between them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. If you're doing dumbbell chest press, I mean, that's what's gonna. It seems to make sense to me that would happen.
Hmm. So yeah, so I'm just keeping doing that, and it's like this part of my arm seems to be increasing a little bit.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's the first time I've ever seen appreciable muscle on my body. So, the only muscle I've ever had before is from, what was really a beer keg around my stomach. That's the only thing that
Yeah.
resembled anything to do with muscle. But yeah.
I think you're on the right path. I think, Dave, this the best diet you could be following. You
Mm,
look well, so that's the
yeah.
main thing, and you're fit and you look athletic, so you're doing great.
Yeah. Feeling good. Yeah. So, Jonathan, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll link to your Instagram and everything in the show notes.
Cheers, Dave. It's a pleasure to come on. It is nice to speak to you for the first time properly as well.
Guys, thanks very much for watching. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.